This is the top 5 reasons Valheim nailed it, with a few little extras thrown in for good measure. As of the time of video recording this, I have 200 hours in Valheim, so I've got a pretty good feel for the game. Now, before I get into the top 5 reasons, there's one really key thing I want to talk about, and it's the flawless early access release of Valheim. The most important thing above everything else was this game felt like a complete game from the moment you started it. It had no bugs, no crashes. It was flawless. That was critical to the success. The worst thing early access games can do, and I put this out as a warning for anyone considering this, is to have a buggy early access release, because when you do that you're dancing with the devil, and it's very, very hard to come back from that. So as you would imagine, before I did this video, I did my research. I read up on the game, I thought about the game, and how I even watched some other YouTubers and what they said. And some of these were some pretty big YouTubers, by the way. And I wanted to see what they said about what makes Valheim great, and I was surprised by the shallow thought that some of them put into it. Some of them talked about how Valheim has a unique progression system. They also commented that it gets harder the further you get into the game, and I'm not kidding, this is what some of the big YouTubers have said. It has tiered biomes that you require better equipment to go into these biomes. Yes, this is what they were putting up there as making Valheim as great, and that it has a creative building. You can do lots of build freedom, you can do whatever you want. Yes, that is a bloody good aspect of the game, but the question is it unique? One even said that the way the bosses unlock gear for you that allow you to progress to the next tier was what made Valheim great. I don't begrudge what they said, because they probably only played 20 or 30 hours of the game when they made those videos, but this is not what makes Valheim great, because there are other great games out there like Terraria, Minecraft, which have many of those aspects in them. What makes Valheim unique is the question. And of course, as I talk through some of these things, some of you will go, well, that's actually relatively obvious. And sometimes things are obvious. They're actually right in front of your face, but they're not pointed out. And don't forget, this is just my personal opinion, and you are perfectly entitled to disagree with me. It's just what I think. Number 1, the graphics. The graphics in Valheim are unique. And that is because they have a soft, almost surreal quality. They have the color quality of almost what I would describe as a pastel and watercolor painting. And if you've not done much art, that won't mean much to you, but what it means is that the graphics have a softness and a lightness and an airiness to them, and that makes the game bright and vibrant without necessarily having really bright, vibrant colors. It's a light, airy game, and actually just by running around in the meadows, it makes you happy. And the next one, the big one for me, is the weather. It feels right, and it has a dramatic effect on the game. You've got sun, you've got rain, you've got storm, you've got fog. Those are the main ones that I can think of, and each is extremely well done, with really, really smooth transitions in between, and each changes dramatically the way the land feels around you. The land almost reacts. It has a visceral, real quality to it. Now, I often think that the weather can be a little bit too dramatic, too quickly, and it changes too fast, but you really feel like you're in a game which has dynamic, real weather. And often in games, they don't achieve that, and that is something that the Valheim developers really, really nailed. Now, the next on my list is the very, very high early game sense of exploration. And you will note I'm not saying middle and late game, because it drops away. Early game, you have a very strong sense of exploration. Now, I highly recommend you do not watch lots of videos on advanced Valheim gameplay, as a key part of this in the game is a sense of the world that needs exploring. The map is massive, and what lies beyond that hill or forest is extraordinarily enticing in the early game. And setting sail on a ship is really quite truthfully exciting. Now, it would be one of the faults I have with the game is the procedural generation. It allows a huge map, of course, but when a map is procedurally generated, the biomes do become similar to each other. And it's because of that, in the late game, that sense of exploration does wane quite a bit. But why was it successful? It was successful because the early game experience really nailed that sense of exploration. One thing that is often forgotten about in games, but is vital, is game pacing. And Valheim really nails this. Each day that you log on, there is a real list of things to do to progress, but none feel overly pressured. The main incentive is to progress, the want, the need to explore. And of course, as you go further out into more distant biomes, the dangers increase. And then when you do that, you realize, oh, I really am going to need that better piece of armor. I really am going to need that better mace or bow and arrow or whatever it is. But in between, you can focus on farming, foraging, breeding animals. Now, you can take your time doing that. Now, you will need the better gear and the better equipment to progress. You just don't have to do it right now. And if this really well-paced game, of course, leads to the next thing that Valheim does really well. And that is choice. You feel like you have free will. Yes, free will, the topic of many philosophical debates, applies to games as well, and Valheim provides you with choice. Very similar to what I was talking about before, that good pacing. You choose what you want to do each day. I'm not forced down a particular path. Now, of course, this is really just an illusion, because to do certain things you will need to take on certain tasks or missions, as you would expect. But most importantly, you feel you have choice. You feel like you have control. And this is incredibly important for the mental engagement in games, and Valheim nails this. Now, this is a bit of a bonus because this is number 6, but who's counting? Sense of home. Valheim gives you a real sense of building, creation, and a sense of home. The building mechanics, as I referenced right back at the beginning of the video, are really, really good. And with that, you can be creative or functional. So your home provides not only something that is comfortable, but it also has an aesthetic value, something that you can show off and be proud of. Your home or your base provides you a place of sustenance, it provides you a place of materials to store, it provides you with many things. Home, well, it is where the heart is, and Valheim captures the sense of home very well. And when you capture that sense of home, well, it's like a game has embraced you. Now, I know that sounds stupid, but that's what Valheim does. Valheim is in early access. It does have faults. It has limited crafting mechanics, and it really needs to extend a lot of that. It needs more biomes to be fleshed out, but for that first 200 hours of gameplay, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well done to the development team, and we're looking forward to what more is in store. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all those other fantastic things. Tickle the little button down there in the corner, always much appreciated. Thanks for watching. See you in the next chapter.